Welcome back, everybody, to the Reality Miniverse podcast, where we talk about all things reality TV. And I have another really exciting guest for us here today. But before we get to that, I want to go over a couple show notes here up front. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, reviews go a long way in the early days of this podcast. So if you could, go ahead and give me 5 stars. It would go a long way. And maybe write something nice. That's helpful too. I also wanted to say, I don't typically plug this in the front of the podcast, but I'm going to do it now. We host games on Reality Miniverse, usually about twice a month. If that's something you're interested in, you can find us on Instagram at Reality Miniverse, or we have a Discord server going on. If you want to message us on Instagram, we can get you into that. But enough about Reality Miniverse. I'm super excited to talk to our guest here today. This is really going to complete my kind of holy trinity of male circle villains here, I could say. Super excited to talk to a guy from the circle, also from The Floor is Lava. He is a reality TV casting producer. It is Jack Atkins. How's it going?
Dang, what an intro. Thank you. I'm doing well. I'm excited to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, man. I'm super excited to have you. I feel like, you and I have both been around a little while in like the reality TV streets from playing like online reality games and LRGs.
Oh yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, what were like some of the things that really like opened this passion for reality television?
Yeah, I mean, it all goes back, I guess, to Survivor, which I discovered when I was like a freshman or a sophomore in high school and was just like immediately hooked. I guess even before then, when I was like 9 or 10, I was a big fan of the show Endurance, which was like Kid Survivor basically. And I was like wanted to go on it, and then they stopped making, like, by the time I was old enough, they stopped the show, and I was like, oh my god. But then I discovered Survivor and just got hooked, and that kind of threw me into the reality TV world. I mean, I was literally especially in high school, I was just the biggest Survivor nerd. I'd play, online Survivor games. And once I turned 18, I started doing some live Survivor games. Yeah, it was an amazing thing. And during COVID, I applied for The Circle because I had watched the first season and was like, this looks fun. Who knows? And then obviously did that. And now I work in reality TV casting. So definitely, I guess my life is pretty reality TV focused, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I gotta say, so I met you at Surviving Reelfoot, and I wanted to say this in the intro. I forgot. One of my first impressions of you was kicking my ass in poker. I don't know if you remember that, but I was just getting into poker at the time, and like you had mentioned, you were also into poker, and I was like, "Yo, let's get a Reelfoot game of poker going on."
Yeah.
And all I remember is you definitely played better than me.
Well, I appreciate that. Even at that point, I'd played a decent amount of poker, and it's definitely come along way more since then. I'm a pretty avid poker player, although used to be a little bit more. Now I try to keep it mostly casual with my friends and stuff, but I'll still, hit the casino every now and again and stuff like that. But yeah, love poker. I do remember that game that we played with Stan and Chapman, and was Pete in there too? I mean, that was a great
Maybe.
squad.
That was so long ago. So, well, I got to ask, so you mentioned the circle, LRGs. I want to know if you feel like LRGs, or maybe probably in this case, online reality games, did these prepare you in any way for the circle? Do you feel like, what about it really got you in like the mode to be on TV, I guess?
That's a good point. Because yeah, I guess your mind goes to the LRGs, but because of the circle, you are like online. The ORGs, I guess, like, yeah, I'd say somewhat. Not that I performed exceptionally well, but I think there was other factors at play. But I think especially again for the setting of the circle, the ORG, a lot of it, and I haven't played one in a long time. Like I don't think I've really played one since I did the circle, because I think that kind of like fulfilled my fix a little bit. But I think in an ORG, it's all about like maximizing your communication like through text. Part of it's a time thing of like how much time do you spend talking to other people, but it's really just like juggling that web of relationships and like trying to build trust, obviously, like just like through text messages, which is exactly what the circle is. So I felt good about going in the sense of like, how do you like make an alliance over text, things like that. Obviously I was had the added twist of not even being myself, so I had to be cautious about like my words and things like that. But I definitely think it helped. And like, I mean, I guess I can't really speak to having played any other live sort of shows. But I do think the live games, like, and I think there's other people who have been on Survivor that have done some live games. Like Jawan, I know, has done some. And I think there is an element of like, if you can manage the social skills and a lot of gameplay like in those live games, like those are obviously transferable skills to the real thing. Not that it's a direct transfer, but if you're good in like surviving real foot, chances are those skills are going to translate pretty well if you're on like the real Survivor, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. You say you got your fix, and this is a question I was going to ask you later, but I'm going to throw it up now. Are you done with games? Like, I like on like live games, sure, but like, let's say an opportunity came along, like I don't know, the Circle All Stars. You know, so like, tell me what would get you back in game mode.
Well, dude, I'm still in like very much a gamer. Like this year alone, I've played 3 live Survivor games. Like
Okay, I
day
didn't know
long,
that.
just a one day.
Okay,
So not sleeping in the woods or anything. I mean, I would do that, but I played 3 live Survivor games this year, which, you know, that's more than my typical year. I definitely went through a hiatus. And I've done some online, not orgs per se, but like over, I guess you could like over Zoom more so. Like I did, what's it called? There was like Vanquish reality games, which
okay, yeah,
benefits
yeah,
like Give Kids the World. I played in that when I went to Hearts of Reality like 2 years ago, and they like raised money for that, and that was an awesome thing. That was just like essentially over Zoom over a couple days. So don't get me wrong, I'm definitely a gamer. I just think when it comes to like orgs and things like that, those are just such a time commitment that I don't know if I have that anymore.
yeah. I mean, it's way easier to like take 2 or 3 weeks off of your life and just go away and do the one thing. But like when you're trying to juggle life and everything else, yeah,
Yeah,
there's no, I don't think there's time for orgs in 2026. It's a
yeah,
lot. So I get it.
yeah,
You mentioned being a catfish, and I want to know about like the inception of that idea because I mean, this is a question I've asked everybody that's been on here.
yeah.
Like, what's the balance here between you thinking being a catfish is going to get you cast on the show, and like, do you actually think it's a good strategy, right?
Yeah, and you've talked to just for my like talked to Briz and Jordan, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. And they were both catfish, right?
Well, Jordan was a half fish, is what I called him, because he catfished as his former fat self.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah.
Um, okay, so honestly, this might be, I don't know if this is a boring answer, if this is like some good inside baseball. When I applied, I was like open to whatever. And I like said that. And when they called me up, they sort of suggested that I be a catfish. And I worked with the casting producers to sort of brainstorm what a good catfish might be. And we landed on like a sorority girl. And I think they had suggested that because at the time I was in college, I was in a fraternity. So I think they liked the juxtaposition of like this frat kid playing like a sorority girl. Um, and so when they suggested that, I was obviously like, okay, that's just what I'm going to roll with. Like that seems like it's my best chance. I don't think you can be like precious about. I didn't think it was like the best strategy. I think being a catfish pretty inherently makes the game harder for you because you have to like juggle this additional set of lies that is like permeating through everything you're doing, like texting and things like that. Whereas if you're not a catfish, you can just let it be yourself, and maybe it's easier to like lie about other stuff then when you're being yourself. But to me, I was like, when I first applied, I'm like, well, I'm not too worried about my strategy when I get on the show. I'm like, let me just worry about getting on the show to begin with and then figure it out. So that was kind of where my head was at. I think sometimes with the circle, and now it's coming back too. They're going to start casting, and people can be a little too, a little too precious about like, well, I have to be myself. And it's like, well, you know, sometimes the better angle. And I think of all the shows with the circle, as far as applying and casting goes, it gives you an opportunity to add a dimension to your character that is not present in other shows where you like just are yourself, because you can create an angle that might be captivating. And it's completely open to you what that is. So if you're strategic about it, I think that could really help in terms of casting.
That's a yeah, no, that's really good. Like with potential casting coming up for the circle, I think people should definitely be looking at it because again, talking to Jordan, he had like a gimmick, right? This whole idea of playing as like his past self, is something that they'd never been done on the show
Yeah.
before. And if you can think of something that's never been done or like an edge that you have that's part of your personality, absolutely, I think people, yeah, think if you want to play the
Something
circle, like get
something
started now,
unique.
brainstorm.
Yeah, something unique and something that I think they love juxtaposition. Like I always say that in casting, whether it's for the circle or for a regular show, like to be someone multi-dimensional, and obviously to catfish as something that adds a dimension to you, I think is really interesting. So, I mean, just I would say like if you are an attractive woman and you want to catfish, do not catfish as like another attractive woman. There's like no hook there, you know what I mean? So the more interesting would be like catfish is like an unattractive woman or an unattractive man to be like, I'm going to see if I can navigate without like the quote unquote like pretty privilege that I may have and like see how that and almost do like a social experience for yourself. And that's just one example. But I think
Mhm.
finding something that is like counter intuitive to who you are is like more interesting, right?
Yeah, that's cool. It's good to
Yeah,
get your insight on that.
I got you. That's my
Um,
job now, so I gotta.
there you go. Exactly. So was there anything else you did to prepare for the circle? Like once you get like cast, like is there any like I mean, are you like I guess you're studying like sorority girl stuff, right? Or like what how do you
Yeah,
prepare?
I should have studied more, obviously, for multiple reasons. I mean, look, I was asking like the girl that I pretended to be, I was friends with, and like she was around, like we went to school together, so we'd hang out, and I'd like ask her, like, what are some like what are certain things that I should like just kind of I don't know. This was a long time ago. I kind of forget that, but obviously I did not do a good enough job of preparing. A lot of people will come in with like a notebook. My mentality was like, and again, in terms of how the show actually went, I should have brought a notebook. Like that would have been the smart thing to do. But I was partly there. I just wanted to make good TV and like have fun. And I'm like, if every time someone asks me a question, I'm just like flipping through my notebook, that's not very fun to watch. It might be good gameplay, but it's not fun to watch. The more fun thing is to see someone like reacting in the moment and improvising. And if it goes bad, it goes bad, but it'll be hilarious. And like that was my mentality. And that's like what happened. And obviously, in the moment that it happened, I was like, damn, I messed up, like whatever. But I think in hindsight, that's the reason it was so much more fun. Like it was a great moment. Whereas if and this is no shade to the people that come prepared, better players than I, but I just think it's not as exciting if it's just like you're looking through a book.
That's totally valid. I
Yeah.
mean, we'll get into the first episode here because I feel like that's kind of your introduction to your entire character, really, is it's that kind of attitude that you just described to me. It's like maybe I'm not prepared, but I'm gonna sit back on this couch like it's my throne. And you were talking a lot of shit especially in the beginning, you're talking a lot of shit.
Yeah.
And I loved it. Like it was totally just part of your character. You're like
Yeah.
laid back, didn't really care, cool as a cucumber. It worked, I think.
Well, and that's the thing too. I think it's interesting because yeah, definitely was probably an arc during my time on there, and um, I think like, and I think you see this with a lot of shows where your persona during casting can kind of start to bleed into like the beginning of the show, and then as you get comfortable and like acquainted, and you're not like worried about what you think the producers like need you to be, you just become more yourself. And so I know during a lot of casting, like I think that I was leaning into like the frat bro stereotype and like being really humorous, but a lot of the humor was like at people like kind of being a dick, like in a fun in what I thought was a fun way. Because during the casting process, they would run like a mock circle with you where they'd like put you in a chat with like a fake person and just see how you react and like narrate. And obviously in that, I'm like, let me just say whatever comes to my mind because that's just the energy they want. So then you get
Mhm.
into the circle and you're like trying to give them that same energy. But it's like, oh, these cameras are filming me. Like maybe some of these things are a little bit rude, but like maybe they're funny. I don't know. Yeah, I can't say that I don't know. But I think that the thing is the people that are like, if your first reaction is to be really nice about everything, that might not be the thing that gets you cast, which is,
Right.
kind of a conundrum. But well, now, not to say that there's not like really sweet and genuine people in the circle, but I don't think me, like, the archetype that I was what they wanted to deliver. That, you know what I mean? That was more of like a Lee, aka River, who's this like sweet old gay man, like, and he's
Yeah.
like really wholesome. Um, but I think as time wore on, I like settled in more, built, like, felt like the relationships were more real. Because you get in there, you're just looking at screens. Like, it's easy to talk shit about a screen that
Yeah.
you don't even know the person that's there, and then you watch it back, you're like, oh, I'm friends with them now. I feel kind of bad that I was shit talking, but um, I think it's
Yeah, it's
all
like
good.
why online bullying exists, right? It's so
Yeah,
much,
I don't think I
you
was
know.
too bad, right? I mean, I was definitely a
No,
little
you
bit of a
you know what? You remind me a lot of Tyson, actually. It's like big Tyson energy. If Tyson
oh,
were to go on the circle, this
that
is
might
like,
be the nicest thing anyone could say. I mean, that's amazing. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, the only thing I really remember from like the opening is like making fun of Bryant for being a breathwork instructor and like calling
Yeah,
him
there's a little bit of that.
Wood or whatever. Um,
You did you made I think it was a reference in the beginning, a Survivor reference, like almost immediately when you're picking out
oh,
your photos.
was
Yeah,
it
you say,
the cute not hot thing?
yeah,
It
exactly,
was
from
a Survivor.
LJ
That
from
was.
Survivor. I
Yep.
totally clocked it. I was like, that was cool. Was there anything else like that you were like trying to throw in, like Easter eggs
I don't know.
or
Probably. I don't
yeah,
know. I
okay,
mean,
yeah.
I mean, I do remember, like, I was sort of metagaming a little bit. Not game. I guess not gaming, but they had like those sort of like light boards in our room where you could put words and stuff in, and I knew that like Post Malone was a big Circle fan, and he like followed Joey and stuff. So I was like, let me give Post Malone a shout out on my board, and maybe get a Post Malone follow, but it didn't happen. Although I did also shout out Jack Harlow because I was a Jack Harlow fan. A bit at that time, at the time, a big Jack Harlow fan. Now, still a fan, not as big. But I shouted him out. He put it on his Instagram story, so that was pretty cool.
Hey, there you go, big brain in it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
coming out with friends either way.
yeah,
I like it.
exactly. But I don't know about like other Easter eggs, but obviously I think the Survivor stuff sort of lived in my mind rent free. So that probably was just a good general influence on me.
Yeah. So this first episode moves a little fast in that we only see one conversation from you before the first rankings, which is, I believe it was you that created an all girls alliance, like off the rip. And again, I guess my question is, was this actually the first conversation you had, or was there a lot more kind of like in those that initial day or two?
There's not a lot more. I remember my first conversation was with River, and it felt like it went well. And then yeah, there was this all girls chat. Oh my god, you're like bringing back memories that I have like lost in my mind. And yeah, and I think that was something, not to, I think the producers sort of suggested like it would be so fun if you and all the girls got together. I was like, all right, let's do it. Like you don't really get to pick. You can kind of give them like a short list of people you want to talk to, but sometimes you don't get a whole lot of choice. But I would say on average, you only have about, in terms of like direct conversations or like little group chats, 2 to 3 a day, and you probably see at least one of those. So it's not like there's a lot going on that you miss.
Right.
You kind of get the gist of it. Yeah.
So again, a lot of the like opening story here is we did the first ratings. You were ranked low, but you were saved by Terralisha, and it seems like the story this season in the beginning is Terralisha versus Savannah, and you do ultimately pick a side. But what was like your kind of read on like a lot of that rivalry throughout the game?
So, if I'm remembering correctly, yeah, because after the first boot, because there was what, 5 people that were vulnerable or something like that, and to me, it felt like Terralisha and Savannah, from what I remember, they sort of both had 2 that they wanted to save, and that left Bryant as like the third. And Terralisha had like major, like, expressed major issues about like the fact that that was what happened. But it's like, well, you both kind of saved your 2 people, and this is the last person left. It's like, what? Should Savannah have just also saved her and given up one of her own? Like, I thought Savannah played it pretty straight, and like from what I remember, their conversation, like it seemed like they agreed, and then Tara Alicia came into the chat and was like, didn't want to do that, and it's like, well, you just threw Savannah under the bus, you know. And so I felt like argument wise, I was very much on Savannah's side. Like I just thought she was a little bit more level headed, um, and just like I liked her more. But strategically, because Tara Alicia had saved me, I also felt like Tara Alicia, in her eyes, I was probably a more valuable. So I wanted to keep Tara Alicia around, despite the fact that I thought she was like wrong about this argument. And I also thought because she was wrong, she was a little bit messier. Where if she'd stay around, she would like continue to make a mess. Whereas Savannah, I thought if we got rid of Tara Alicia, would be able to reintegrate very easily and like be more of an opposition.
Yeah, interesting. It's good to hear that insight because we get bits and pieces of like why you're doing what you're doing and why what side you
Yeah.
ultimately take. But like, I definitely wanted to hear a little bit more about that.
And
That's
I
helpful.
remember because that was actually of all that was maybe as far as like strategy goes, because sometimes in the circle it's hard to actually really execute strategy because your conversations are limited. Like you can have ideas that you don't even have the chance to launch. But I do remember getting a lot of like flack early on from just the audience of like being really on the fence and like flip floppy in terms of those two. But I stand by the fact that in the circle, my mindset was I don't need to be anyone's like number one. I just need to make sure I'm not anyone's like bottom two. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And with that, I was like, hey, if I pick a side here, and again, I morally felt like Savannah was in the right, but strategically thought I wanted Tara Alicia around. I was like, if I pick a side here, I've then stated my allegiance. And then if the other one gets power, then I'm potentially fucked. So I was like, let me just kind of try to mediate a little bit. Sure, they might not like know that I'm 100% with them, but they also won't know if I'm against them. And I think in that situation, it leads to you being a lot safer. And again, I remember getting flack for that because I think in the first ratings, I was what, like fifth or sixth. The second ratings, which is all these conversations about this Tara Alicia Savannah drama, I was second. So, you know, I remember, I think that's like what I caught a lot of strategic heat for. And you're like, these are all things coming back in my mind now, but I'm like, I stand by doing that. I think it's like Survivor, like you're playing the middle. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
totally valid. No, that makes sense. I wanted to let's see. Next, the first additional person we get added to the game is Lance Bass, right? This seemed to be like a big hook for like I remember in the promos like Lance Bass is playing. You didn't even know who Lance Bass was though, did you?
No.
No love there.
No, and honestly, that I'm glad of the fact that it's also someone that Emily would not know who it
Okay,
was.
yeah.
Otherwise, I really could have blown my cover. But yeah, I remember because usually, and I don't even think they showed this in the actual edit. I think they changed a little bit. But usually, when a new person's added to the show, they just show their first name. You know, it'd be like, and I think this is what made the show is like Lance has like joined the group chat or something. But in the actual, when we actually filmed it, it said Lance Bass. So I was like, he's getting last name treatment. Is this
Nice.
like a celeb? Like I was like, that's why I think the next day I was like, who the is Lance Bass? Like, so yeah, I didn't know who that was. But because of the last name, I was like, this has to be somebody, but I just don't have any clue who this is.
Yeah.
No
Yeah,
shade. It was just kind of before my time, like because
it is totally
like
before your time, but
yeah,
also like it's of my time, and I don't know who like I know of NSYNC,
yeah,
sure. I don't know Lance Bass or like the other gentlemen. Like I don't know these guys.
other than
So
JT, I mean,
right, okay. Okay, so here's a question: did you? Because Lisa says, "Okay, I'm not Lance, but you can meet Lance later." Did you ever meet Lance Bass?
I did.
Okay, cool.
Only a couple times. I think I was at his birthday party one year. That was fun. But I can't say that we're close personal friends or anything. But I did meet him, which is cool.
Okay,
But I doubt most of the cast has met him.
yeah,
He wasn't like pulling up to our events really. Although we did have a few different circle finale parties at a bar in West Hollywood that he's a co-owner of,
Okay.
Rocco's. So shout out.
There you go. That's so cool. That's such a random like connection that you have through this
Yeah,
experience.
yeah,
But yeah, yeah. For Briz, it was the Spice Girls. For you, it's Lance Bass.
right.
So
And
there you
honestly, those
go.
are like the only two like celeb appearances, right? More or less,
Yeah, yeah. Y'all
as
clocked
far
it
as
up.
participants.
Right, right. Um, Let me ask you this. Let's take a sidestep here for a minute. We'll get back to the season. I want to ask you about like the upcoming season of the Circle. You know, it just got
Yeah.
announced that it's coming back. Um, I'm curious, like, what are some things that you feel sacred about the Circle that you like excited to see again, and then like some things maybe you hope they change, if anything.
It's a good question. I actually out of love for the Circle, I always after a few seasons, I definitely had thoughts about things that I thought they could do better, and maybe that's just we're fans. We put I'm a producer. I put my producer brain on of like how could this work better, because I think at its core it's really fun, but it's got some flaws that I think as they continue doing seasons like became more and more apparent. The main one being like there's no actual game consequence to being a catfish. Like there's no incentive to actually get rid of them. And so as people figure that out, that like strategically they could be very beneficial allies, you lose the initial hook of like they're gonna have to find the catfish. It's like, well, you don't really. So I proposed or someone or I discussed this with somebody of like maybe you put a bounty on catfish heads. So if you eliminate catfish, that adds to the prize pool. And if the catfish wins and they get whatever additional money maybe remains from that bounty pot. I thought that would be a good idea. I'm really curious to see how they do it in terms of like being a live thing. Because I know it sounds like they're going to do it more like a Love Island where they like turn the episodes around really quick. There might even be like fan votes, which I don't even mind that bad because a lot of the times the Circle is kind of a toss up. There's a lot of randomness to it and luck.
Yeah. Right.
So I don't think I hate. I mean, I would hate if I was in there and I got like voted out by the audience, but
Yeah.
which they might have done to me. But um, yeah, although maybe that, well, I say that, but also maybe that could be one of those things where a lot of times the Circle audience, especially, like really didn't accept like strategic cutthroat gameplay. Like a lot of people who did that, like Jordan and Briz, were villainized. And
Hmm.
I would hate if the players that come to really play like get villainized just for playing hard and then get like voted out by fans. Like that would be unfortunate. Um, but I'm excited to see what they do with it. I think it really needed a breath of fresh air in terms of
Yeah.
like revitalizing the formula. And so, we'll see what Hulu does. I hope they
Yeah.
call me. I legally can't participate now because I've worked for the studio in casting other shows. But I would love to help cast and like do whatever. I mean, that would be
That
cool.
would be cool. That would be a full circle moment for you.
Totally,
So,
totally.
I think in general, I think just like casting in general, bring on Jack. I think he'd be great for this specifically because I think this is where you start with your environment. I think about Australian Survivor in their first season, which was very much focused on mateship, and Nick, who was the villain, was very much villainized, and like the audience hated him. But when you come back to the next season, they casted way more game players, and like
Mhm.
the environment on the show had changed, where it wasn't about mateship; it was more about playing the game. And I feel
Yeah,
like if we casted more towards and I know we don't want all of that, especially on the Circle where like you want influencers and maybe celebrities but
yeah,
I do think like a more focus on like the fact that this is a game, you know.
yeah, totally. I mean, that's what keeps it fun. Like I thought I felt like of a lot of shows, the Circle had some really high highs, but also some, I don't want to say like low lows, but the baseline of just watching people like text each other was not that exciting to me. But when you
Yeah.
see someone like get blocked and like go visit somebody else face to face, and you see like the final reveals at the end where everyone meets each other, I thought those were all like really riveting TV. So things that are more in line with that and less of just like we're all texting each other, I think is great.
Yeah. True. Yeah.
And I
Let's
think it
open it
worked
up.
especially well early on because of like the COVID situation almost. But I always just think it's more fun to watch people like interact face to face. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. Okay, I wanted to ask about a game here that you played. It was a truth or dare game, and you ended up going with dare, which I found this. I was so annoyed for you in this moment. You went with dare, and they essentially gave you a truth question, anyways. Your dare was to send an emoji to your best friend, which again is just truth. Like, say who your best friend in the circle is, right?
Yeah.
Did
Who did I
you
send it
feel
to?
annoyed by that?
Did I send it to Chloe?
Um, yes,
Yeah.
yes, you did.
Yeah, I was a little annoyed because if I remember correctly, some of the truths and dares were like pretty innocent. And for me, it was okay. I was like, this is, this is me announcing who my number one is, basically. But I felt like people had already seen that me and Chloe were really close, right?
Mm.
So from what I remember, I felt pretty comfortable like declaring that. But right, there were truths and dares that were just like, go put on as many shirts as you can
Yeah.
in 30 seconds. And I was like, wish I could have gotten that. Um, and that's what I
Like
mean is
sometimes I
like,
feel like there are moments of the season I feel like they're kind of out to get you. I'm not gonna lie. Like
I
there's
mean,
things that I feel like
I know one
you
big
might have
one.
been cast to fuck this up. You know?
No, I know one big one off the top of my head. That's the thing. It was frustrating in the moment with some of that stuff. But that's when I ultimately realized, and it still is a little frustrating, but like that's just sort of the nature of the show. It's not like a Survivor where it feels pretty pure in terms of like the competitive spirit and like the fairness of it all. Like this is meant to be good TV. And, with the makeup challenge especially, definitely it's obviously like, okay, this is like the targeted thing to embarrass me pretty much. But they immediately brought me back and gave me a second chance. So I was sort of like, if that's the cost of doing business, I think that's pretty fair.
You take the good with the bad. That's
Yeah,
totally valid. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. So I think the next big thing that happens to you in the game is when you win influencer with
mhm,
Chloe, your BFF.
yeah,
Um, and you seem to be there. There are moments in this where I guess you are trying to play, or maybe not show your cards as much, and then Chloe's kind of getting annoyed with you being more non-committal. Um, but you guys end up agreeing on Savannah. So do you want to talk about like that initial influencer chat and how that went down?
yeah. I'm trying to remember exactly how that unfolded. The things I do remember are wanting to be pretty go with the flow and agreeable with Chloe because I had just witnessed Savannah and Teralicia go to blows over not agreeing. And so to me, I'm like, Chloe's my number one. Let me rock with her. And look, I went in with I think thoughts of who I wanted to go home. I wanted to keep Savannah and Teralicia because I wanted
Mm.
them to continue beefing with each other because I figured that would be like a natural shield. But the way that the conversation like was sort of set up and unfolded in terms of like who started the conversation, like how it went, I think it was sort of like Chloe started it off and she was like, okay, I really like Trevor. So I'm not going to do Trevor. Like, is there anyone you want to keep safe? And I think I was like, I really like River. So I don't really want to do River. And at this point, there was only 5 options.
Mm.
And then I think she was like, I'm trying to think of who else was even in at this point. Look, we couldn't do Lance because they were immune. And then who was Courtney. And then I think Chloe was like, I like Courtney a lot, so I don't want to do Courtney. So that leaves Savannah and Teralicia like,
Mm.
you can pick. And I was like, so, I think at the time I wanted Courtney out. But I'm not going to push back when she's like, I'm not doing that. So she gives
Yeah.
me the option. And then I feel like I remember throwing out pros and cons to both, sort of with the idea that I wanted to keep Teralicia and give out Savannah. And I think that she was a little unsure and like maybe push one way or the other. And then I think I like sort of firmly stated my case. And she was like, okay. So to me, I was like, just the way the conversation unfolded via text, I saved who I thought was my number one at the time, and she saved 2 of her people. And I wasn't going to argue with that. Because also, when you're in the room, you're not getting like hours to broker this deal. It's sort of like she says that she's not voting this person out. It's like, okay, this person's off the table now. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
gonna go around trying to like make this whole argument to get them out. Um, and so that left two options, and I got the option that I thought was better for my game out. So I felt like that was I felt like I handled that pretty well.
And to be fair, especially at this point in the game, I think the people that are kind of looking at you the most are Courtney and Savannah. And then by the time Savannah's out, she is like she goes to visit she goes to visit Courtney, and she's telling Courtney like Emily is a snake. Like, so these people, you
Those
definitely
were my two
clocked the people that
targets.
were onto you.
Those were my two targets. Um, those were my two targets, and like I liked the thing is then and still now, as far as like people in real life, they're like two of my favorites from the season. Like I knew we would be good friends, but I knew as Emily that I was not necessarily going to be their cup of tea, and that they wouldn't necessarily want to keep me around. And I was right, I think. And we see that like I think the next episode when Courtney's influencer and he wants me out, and then they end up settling on Terry Alicia. But I knew that Chloe was like I knew it was important to have like a ride or die in the game, and I also knew that Chloe here's the thing like behind this, they have certain people they want to keep in the game, like the producers. They want to be around to shape the narrative, and Chloe being from Too Hot to Handle like was one of those people. So I'm like, if I attach to Chloe, they want to give her like leverage. They want to have maybe this reveal of like Chloe meeting her bestie who's like a dude, whatever. So I was like, I just want to be in Chloe's good graces here. And I thought Savannah was a good move. But yeah, having just seen Savannah and Tara Alicia literally become like the heart of the drama of the season because they could not agree. And the thing is, even when they were influencers, they didn't even seem to really disagree. It all unfolded after. So I was just like, let me not burn any bridges here. Um, so yeah, I felt like I handled it pretty well. And Chloe and I came out of it still very tight, like strategically. So
Yeah. So what sucks about this though is we do go into the next round where Courtney is he becomes the Joker, which he gets to anonymously talk to the two new people coming in, and essentially his plot is to make it seem like it's you, Emily, talking to the new people. And this is what I feel like has to suck about this show is like there can be people that and like you said, you are targeting Courtney, but I don't even think you know the extent of how hard Courtney's coming after you, or do you?
no, I didn't. I in my mind, because I was working with River and Chloe, who I felt like both had a good relationship with Courtney. I felt like that was like my crew almost. And I literally, Courtney was the last person I had a chance to talk to in the show. I don't think I talked to him until halfway through the game. But I was hoping there was sort of an unspoken thing, especially once Tara Alicia went. We were the four remaining OGs. So I was just hoping that like we could stick together. Um, but yeah, I did not know he was coming after me so hard. And I guess it was because of the Savannah situation. Um, and the only reason I was even like maybe targeting him for that moment at that vote was just like wanting to keep Savannah and Tara Alicia both in. I knew that Chloe would not want to vote out Trevor. I didn't want to get rid of River. And he was sort of the last option. And I just knew I was like, hey, I haven't had a chance to talk to him. And I know he's really social. And like literally the currency in the game is like, have I had a chance to have a conversation with you? And I had been trying to. Like I wanted to work with him, but I wasn't able to have a conversation. So I was like, that's naturally like the thing that makes it. But once like because I think there were conversations with like Chloe and River being like they felt good about Courtney and me, and like I was sort of like, okay, that's like the four. But I never had like a one-on-one with Courtney, but I was like, I'm cool to like let that rock. So I did not know he was coming after me so hard. Yeah, which is ironic because now he's like my closest friend from the cast. I
Yeah,
remember
yeah.
having friends while it was airing being like, F Courtney, like he keeps talking. I was like, I swear, he's like a good dude. Like he didn't know.
Yeah,
Um,
y'all, all three of you and Savannah go on Floor's Lava together.
I'm saying, yeah.
How did
Um,
that come to be? Can I ask you about? Can we stop down on that
I
really
think
quick?
they asked
Because
like
I actually watched your episode of Floor's Lava to prepare for
let's
this.
go. I think they asked Courtney if he wanted to do it and asked like who from the season he would want to do it with, and he said me and Savannah. So we were able to get in there. That was a mess, but it was cool.
Yeah.
How did he get to be the Joker again?
Oh,
Oh, did Savannah get to give a power or something like that?
I
I think so, right?
Maybe it was. Oh, yeah, because Savannah had to go. She specifically had to go visit the person that she wanted to win the game.
Right.
So she kind of knew that it was a special visit. So she went to
Yeah.
visit Courtney, and then that's
And
how.
obviously that kind of bones me a little bit too, right? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like I'm the one who's getting all the blame for getting rid of him or getting rid of her, and then she gets to give power to the one. And obviously I didn't even know that like really was like a I don't know. I guess I maybe did know there was a Joker, but I had no idea what they were like doing, you know. So
Right, not the extent, right?
yeah.
Um, okay, well, like you said, Courtney blogs Terralisha, and I believe this next episode is
But
the
watching it
actual.
back, I will say like I was like the other option. I didn't really know that until I watched it back. Like
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
Who
okay.
was the other? But it was him and Chloe,
For
right?
influencer,
I think. Or him and
man, this is so embarrassing because I just watched it,
you're
but
good.
like I said, I watched it on
I think, but
1.5.
that's
So
the thing. I think it was him and Chloe, and I knew that my relationship with
yeah,
Chloe would pay dividends. Like I don't think that Chloe wanted me to go, so um,
there you go.
that's why you just stick with. As long as you have one person in there who doesn't want you out, you're like pretty much chilling. So,
Exactly. So
and I felt at that point, I felt pretty good with like River and Trevor, and yeah, I mean, I wasn't in a great spot. Like I went down in those ratings a good amount, but um,
yeah.
yeah,
So I want to talk about the mannequin challenge a little bit more, the makeup
yeah.
challenge. I want to like revisit what it was like in the moment. Like, how much time did you have to do this? Do you feel like you were set up to do well? Yeah, kind of like relive the experience of the actual makeup challenge for me.
Yeah. Yeah. You know,
Because again, I'm sitting here like he's getting set up. Like they totally like.
yeah. Yeah, I don't think that all hit me in the moment. I was just sort of like doing my what I could, trying to have fun with it. And like honestly, stupidly thought for a minute thought I was like doing okay. And I stepped back and looked at it, I was like, oh, this is terrible. Like and then it didn't all hit me until they like revealed everything and like they had Jonathan Van Ness like giving feedback, and I was like, because I didn't really know the extent of how bad it was because I didn't really even know like what good would look like. You know what I mean? So,
Right.
look, I think they kind of set it up, but actually, I'll try not to divulge too much. But I felt like some of my producers like in advance kind of try to drop some hints to like I think they knew what was coming and they felt bad and they wanted to try to give it a fighting chance. Um, but they were very like coy about it, obviously,
Yeah.
because they can't actually tell me, right? You know, so I didn't really like understand like that was what was going on. I just thought it was like playful. But yeah, once they like revealed it, it like all hit me. I was like, oh, this is cooked. Like this is bad. Um, yeah, no, I knew it was gonna be pretty bad, pretty bad.
Yeah, you were definitely upset by this. I was too
Yeah,
watching it. So like this, but you're right. I think you properly saw that. Like, wow, this is a big f up. I think everyone's gonna recognize it, and they did, which
yeah,
sucked.
that was the thing. And I definitely, I shed a few tears, and I think I kind of felt dumb about that, but like of shedding. But I was sort of like in the moment, it was less about like, oh, I messed that up, but I was like, I think my game's over. Like, I think experience is going to be over. I just lost out on 100K, and I looked
Yeah,
like an
dude,
idiot.
I'd cry too.
So I was like, and I was like, also, I was like laughing while I was crying. Like, I knew it was gonna be hilarious. I was like, this is gonna be a hilarious moment, but like, I'm the butt of the joke, and like that kind of sucks. But I wasn't like mad about that. Like, I didn't think it was
Yeah,
like unfair or whatever because it's like what you sign up for. But
right.
I was just upset. Like, I was so jazzed to be there. I thought things were going pretty well, and then I mean, I was like eyeing the end. I was thinking about like, what's my end game? And in your mind, you're like building up of like, okay, I have a path. Like this could work. Because I had an end game plan too that I thought was feasible. Um, but and then yeah, like the rug gets pulled out from under you, and you're like, not only like outside of like looking bad, I'm like, oh, this experience is like over. that's how I felt. I was like, I'm gonna be out. This sucks. Um, I don't want to go home. Like I want to keep playing. So, um,
Well, I think that was like your most human moment in the entire game, and
yeah,
it was like a moment where you became like, yeah, you're kind of you're funny, you're making jokes, you're making fun of people throughout the game, but like this is the point where like, wow, okay, Jack is a human,
yeah,
he's a dude, and he's hurt, and yeah, I think again, I think it just added to
yeah.
um,
That was the
your
thing
character.
is because they dropped them in batches of 4. In the first 4 episodes, I was still young. I was even watching them back. I was still 20. In the first 4 episodes, I was like, I'm being really funny. Like I think people are gonna love it. And there was a lot of feedback that was like, he's, mostly people like me, but you definitely look online, you see feedback, and you're like, people would be like, he's kind of being a dick. Yeah, it's at certain points, or like he's too broy or whatever. And then I remember watching the second batch, which is when the makeup thing happened. Like right when it dropped, and watching it and being like really embarrassed and like thinking people were really gonna judge me. And then the sentiment after that was like, it's the softer side of him. Like he's actually a nice dude. Um, so that was like complete kind of 180. And then obviously, when I watched the last batch, which was all with Lisa, I thought that was like my best period of time because we just had a good dynamic, and I think people did agree. Like people agreed that they loved our dynamic. So, but it was funny watching the first bit where I was like, oh, I'm being really strategic. I'm being funny, and people were like, he's wishy washy and like being mean, and I was like, oh, I didn't feel that way. And then the second bit being like embarrassed and like I'm gonna look like an idiot and a loser, and everyone's gonna hate me, and then people being like, oh, we feel bad for him. Like he's a nice guy. Like,
Yeah. Um, okay, well, I do want to talk about that point because your game does shift. You end up getting blocked at the same time as Lance,
yeah.
and this is another one where I kind of want you to like relive like these moments because I'm so curious how they preserved the secret from you because you go to say your goodbyes and you walk in on Lisa
Mm-hmm.
and you look genuinely shocked. Like again, like I know Jack outside the show, like I could tell in your face, like that was a moment where you did not see that coming.
Yeah.
So yeah, tell me what that was like.
Well, yeah. I mean, when I got eliminated, they hit you with like pick the player you want to go meet, and I was like, I said Trevor, which I think was probably a surprise to a lot of people, and I don't think a lot of people caught it, but to me it was like I think that Trevor is a catfish, but they're playing a good game. And so if that were the case, I wanted to go like meet who it really was and like give them props. And if it was really Trevor, I figured that's like a guy that I would get along with. So I just want to be like, oh bro, like what's up, Um, maybe Chloe would have been more interesting if like just that reveal, but um I just thought like game wise, Trevor was more interesting. But yeah, when I went, I thought I was going to Trevor's apartment. So I walk in and see Lisa sitting there. So at first I was like, that's not who I would expect to be catfishing as Trevor. Like, what is the relationship here? Um, I thought maybe it was like Trevor's mom or something. Not even that like that's who Lisa was. I was thinking like the person catfishing as Trevor would be his mom or something like that.
Right, right.
When I see Lisa, I was like, what? I was like, Trevor? And she was like, no, I'm Lance. And I was like, what is,
You're like prod fucked up.
yeah. I was like, my mind short circuited for a second, but then I think I was like, and then something popped up on the TV, and I was like, oh, they got us here together. So before they like told us, like I had a feeling. I was like, it's gonna be something like that. But I was definitely just like going through a whirlwind of emotions there. I was definitely wild, like definitely a very fun moment to. I might like go rewatch that.
Yeah.
I haven't watched this in like 5 years.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious though, because there is like an extended period of time where you get eliminated, and there had to have been friends or people that you know that turned off the show when you were eliminated. And did that happen?
Was that?
Like, didn't know you came back?
I think at the end of episode 8, though, it ended with me and Lisa meeting.
Okay.
So that would the last episode of the block. So I think it cut out on us being like the alert popping up for both of us.
Gotcha.
So I
Okay.
think people were like, something's gonna happen.
Gotcha. Okay.
If
Okay.
I remember correctly. Because I don't remember people being like, you had a good run, like you're out. That sucks. I think people were like, are you coming back? And I was like, who knows?
Okay. I see. I see.
Um,
This is what I lose in the binge because, like, I'm not
exactly.
even
You don't
looking when the episode
know the
changes.
time. Yeah.
But
Um,
that's cool.
yeah.
Um, you and Lisa do great together. I think.
Thank you.
For whatever mistakes you made in the first half of the game, like I feel like both of you were just kind of like firing all cylinders.
Yeah.
You guys are winning competitions. There's like a trivia thing that you guys win.
Yeah.
And people are feeling good about like every mention of you. I feel like mention of John
Yeah.
is very positive from other players. So
I, yeah.
like you guys are doing great.
Yeah. I appreciate that. And it was interesting. What they gave us was the picture of John, and they gave us that his occupation was a psychic. And we also had access to more photos, many of which were him as Santa Claus.
Yeah.
And so we, went the route of, but the rest of it was up to us, like age, location, name, bio. And I remember having the idea, and Lisa and I had like a great working relationship where we would like bounce ideas off each other. She was very, um, like I think a lot of people in the circle go in and like because you're the one, running your profile. I think a lot of people are very want to be in control. I admittedly think I kind of felt like that, but Lisa was just like a great partner in that like she'd let me cook and then like add some little ideas to it, and it would be great because I think it gets tricky, and you see this in like season 1 with like Ed and Tammy where they both have like completely different ideas, and so nothing really comes out like um fluid. Like if two different people are the mouthpiece of what's supposed to be one person, and it's not all coming from the same voice, then I think it can get
Right.
kind of like contradictory. Um, so we had this idea. But the picture of him is like this older white guy. Maybe even looks like he has a big stash, so like maybe he looks a little southern, whatever. And to me, I was like, old white guys could either be like extremely sweet and like lovable, or like kind of creepy. You know what I mean? So I didn't know if this was like unkosher, but we were like had the idea to like make him a gay man because we thought it was more like warm and welcoming, and we also knew that we of course knew the dynamics remaining in the game, and so we were like, where can we fit in this puzzle? And we felt like if we went the route of being gay, we wanted to work with River and with Courtney, who were both two gay men, so we were like we could easily kind of fit in with them as like a mature figure. Obviously, we didn't even know that Lee was River and was like an older gay man himself.
And River was straight, so they were also putting the gay persona on River, right? So I don't think
Was
it's. Lee mentioned that River, the real River, was straight, and he put
but
the
did he play him gay? He played him gay though, right?
yes, he had like a pride flag in
Right,
his bio and everything.
right,
I think, yeah.
right. But that's to me because we were like this older guy, probably not gonna work with like Chloe, probably not gonna work with like Mitch. So I think that's what we saw as like our inroad for allies, and it like I think it worked pretty well, and we talked a lot about like with John, we didn't use any hashtags. We only used the smiling emoji because we were like, if this was an actual old guy, like he wouldn't know the hashtags. He wouldn't know all the different emojis. He would just be like smiley face emoji. You know what I mean? So I think it like helped to just find the character pretty well. And also we had like the idea that, and I think this is probably what production was like maybe wanted us to do. I don't know, of by making him psychic, we could use like what we already knew about the other players and express it as if we were psychic, because they didn't know that. They thought it was a brand new person. So that was really fun to like use that and like figure out how to give people readings that like wasn't too on the nose, but like would incorporate stuff that only like we would know. So yeah, John was really fun. Like it was and John is actually my grandfather's name. And the
Okay, yeah,
location that we picked too is where he was from. So I kind of did that as like a homage to him. Um, but yeah,
that's
no,
cool.
it was, and Lisa was just, yeah, it was also, the whole game I'd been by myself. We also had to quarantine for 2 weeks before we even filmed. So I had been alone for almost a month. And so just being able to like hang out with somebody was so awesome. Like even in
Yeah,
the downtime, because there's a lot of downtime too, where you don't really have anything to do. But Lisa and I would like, with our producer that would be on like the speaker, we'd have them like give us trivia, and we'd be doing like trivia, and we'd like play games. So it was way more fun hanging out with Lisa than like it was being alone. So I think that's why we became like fast friends.
that's cool. This is kind of a random question, but it's something I noticed. It happened one time when you were the influencer the first time, and then again, there's like a frat party that you guys do. You're 20 years old here. Were they letting you drink? It
No,
looked like you had. Oh no, were they?
I
Because there
think
was
they
a
gave us
point.
some non-alc. They gave me some
Okay,
non-alcoholic stuff. Um, no, well, so they let me drink in like because we were in England, so the age was
right.
technically 18. So during like the pregame quarantine stuff, they did let me drink. It was limited, but they'd like got me like a couple bottles of wine. But during filming, they did not let me drink
Mm.
because obviously it's an American show. They didn't want to show like a 20-year-old drinking. I will say at the finale though, like the reunion, we when they like sent us off at like as they were doing like the reunion or whatever, they were like, we've got you know, champagne, and there's like non-alcoholic champagne for Jack. And I went over there, I was like, I don't know where. And Mitch was like, well, here's the champagne. I was like, bet, like I'll take a glass.
You just took the.
Um, but yeah, yeah.
That's funny.
No, I did not
Okay,
drink. Other than that, I did not drink during the game.
there you go. Um, okay, we're coming up on the end here. There's a couple other things that happen.
Yeah,
There's like an award ceremony that you
right.
guys do.
Oh, and there was a lot of fun events like when Lisa and I were together. Like
Yeah.
there was like the election day, right? There was
Hmm.
the trivia with the party, there was the awards, there was like the family messages, and that was only over the span of like 4 days. So that was a fun
Yeah.
stretch.
Yeah. Um, okay, well, I want to jump ahead to the final rankings where there's a couple
Right.
things I noticed here. Number one, through this process, we don't see a lot of people where they're placing you. But again, literally almost, I think it's every player they go through, and all of them have something insanely positive to say about John, which I feel like was just like the best strategy to go into. Because I feel bad for the last person entering, even if you guys have been playing already. Like it's so hard to integrate and
Yeah.
make friends. But the fact that you guys actually made an impact on these people was, I think,
Yeah.
was really impressive.
Yeah.
Um, and so one other thing that is they keep focusing on, they show you talk about this multiple times, that you mentioned you're going to rate Courtney low and you're going to rate Trevor high, which kind of like, tells me that like you guys might have been the thing that gave Trevor the win, or yeah. So
Yeah. I mean, I remember we did rank Trevor one, but it's so tough. It's five people.
mhm.
Like if we switch anything around, Trevor might not, like someone else might. It might be the reason that someone else wins. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and we put Chloe last, I believe. Yeah, we put Chloe last. Um, and I'm trying to remember my logic of my logic was if the way I looked at it, there was two duos. It was River and Courtney, and there was Chloe and Trevor. And in my mind, kind of the conclusion I made is they're probably each going to rate each other their number one, and then they then have to decide how they want to rate the people in the other duo. And
Mhm.
my thinking was that Courtney, and if they were all going by like actual closeness, that Courtney and River would both rate Chloe more highly than Trevor because they had seemed to have a better relationship with Chloe than Trevor.
Mhm.
Whereas I wasn't sure what Chloe and Trevor would the distinguishment between River and Courtney would be. I didn't know who was like a little closer to whom. And so I felt like put if I think that River and Courtney are both going to put Chloe higher than Trevor, it then makes sense to put Trevor 1 and Chloe last.
Right.
And then the other two, I forget. I feel like I think we might have put Courtney second and River third. And I think the logic there was like, well, actually, maybe I don't know if that was the logic, but because I think in my mind I was like, I think maybe Chloe's a little closer with River, but I forget the exact distinguishment between, or like the distinction between second and third. But that's why I went like Trevor first and Chloe last.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of, but that's the thing. If I switch those two, Chloe wins. Like she was like a close second, I think. So, you could say like that's why. Yeah, it is obviously a big factor by Trevor. But if I switch anything, it's like that could be the reason someone else wins. So
Yeah, it's so random.
I remember in my notebook, I like drew up several models of like, here's what I think the rankings will be if everyone rates purely off like vibes and like friendship. Here's what I think the rankings will be if I think everyone's going to go strategically, like game theory. Here's what I think it might be realistically of like Courtney's going to vote strategically, but River's going to vote with his heart and Chloe's going to vote with her heart. And then I try to just like average all those like placements out and be like, okay, these are the people that on average will like place the best. And so we need to rank them the lowest. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I don't think there was any flaw, and like I think everything y'all did made sense. So
yeah,
like,
it's tough to
and
tell.
you ended up in fifth, I think. So it's not like you could have saved yourself by again. Like if anything, you changed the winner, which is
my hope, honestly. And this is how I felt as Emily too, and it kind of worked out this way as John was that because I identified there were those two duos that would rank each other's number one. If they recognize that the other duo was a pair, it makes sense. And you think that they're going to rank each other number one, it makes sense to rank them as your lowest. So in my mind, any of their rankings like could have and should have game theory wise been their duo, John at second, and then the other duo at 3 and 4. And if we were like if we're on average, we were everyone's number 2, we would like have won. You know what I mean? So that was my thinking. Obviously, didn't work out that way, but in my mind, that was like our best bet. And that's what I was thinking as Emily too. But the final rankings are such a toss-up. It was like you don't know who's going to vote strategically. You don't know who's going to vote with their heart. Like it's really hard. And we did get last, but I do know at like the final elimination ranking, I think we got ranked pretty high by some people. Like they showed it too. Like a few people like put us 2. Like I was almost surprised. Like there's a world I think we might have been the highest ranking, but just for narrative purposes.
Okay, I see. Yeah,
but I can't say
what you mean.
Sure, but I do remember them asking us like who, if we were the influencer, who we'd want to boot, and I'm pretty sure I gave an answer that I don't think they would have liked, and not to say that that's like why that shook out that way, but
no, I see what you're saying.
But like other than the fact, like the hope of what I said of like if everyone rates a second, like maybe we can win. I was sort of like I remember, especially after the final round table where we meet each other and people were talking and like talking about their bonds and stuff. I remember Lisa being like, I think we got a good chance. I was like, I don't think I don't think we have it. Like just the way, like how much the other 4 were like talking about their bond and stuff too. Like we kind of seemed like an afterthought to them a little bit.
Yeah.
I was like, I think they went more with their heart and like kind of probably put us low because we were new. So.
Yeah. I mean, impossible situation for you again, coming in late. Like, so I think you made the best of it as best you could, you and Lisa.
Yeah. In hindsight, just glad to be there like the whole time. I mean, that's like the biggest thing, right? Like there's a world I go out like I was pretty close to going out like third and like not, that would have been not cool. So
that's a win, I think. Episode 1 to the finale.
Exactly.
So, good job. Anything else about this experience you want to like reflect on here? I mean,
no, I don't know.
Is it weird? Is it weird? Like, is there any part of you that like cringes thinking about your time on, or like, what's your feeling on it?
I was 20 and now I'm 26, and like it's I was a junior in college and now I have to like get my own health insurance. Like I still need to do that. So yeah, absolutely. Even watching it back when I was 20, I still was like cringing.
Yeah.
Now I think I've separated myself from it more. It'd be interesting to go back and look, but no, it's definitely cringy. But I feel like I like put a good foot forward. Um, Especially I think just to put a 20-year-old in that scenario. Not that it's like bad. Like I'm glad they did that, but
Yeah.
you know you're not gonna get the most put together wise person. But no, it's really looking back, it's kind of a fever dream, right? Like a lot of other things have happened since then. And obviously I just kind of look at that as like a different version of me. Like it's been so long. Um, so it's weird to think about the fact that I was on it, you know. And it's cool that
Yeah.
the show's coming back because it is in a way like a deep-seated part of my identity, I guess. Like I don't think of myself like that, but it's like the reason that I am where I am. And so when the show's just like gone, you're sort of like there's like the memories sort of like whisk away. Whereas when it comes back, it's like, oh, you know, we have a finale party for this next season. I get to see everybody. We get to like reminisce a little bit. Um, and people are like talking about the show that is like still around, not like the show that once was, like a distant memory. So, because again, it doesn't. It's not like my focal point in my life anymore, obviously, but it's like a nice part of life that I like appreciate when it's still present. You know, so but yeah, it was cool. It was cool. I
Yeah.
wish that you know, now that they're bringing back it back, it would sort of be fun to be like, what would it be like to play again? But like I said, I worked with that production company on Traders, so I think that legally I'm not allowed to now, but that's
Yeah.
fine. You know.
I know we're kind of getting to the end of this podcast. I had a
Yeah.
couple more things I wanted to ask you
Yeah,
about,
I
but
got
before we
like
went.
5 minutes. So
Okay, cool. Well, I want to ask about casting really quick. Like,
yeah,
what made you want to get into that? That was a listener question, actually. Somebody asked,
cool.
what made you want to get into casting? And if anything else you want to talk about, like what you're working on right now, if you want
Yeah.
to share, or yeah,
Casting, man. Yeah, well, obviously I did the show when I was in college and moved out to started coming out to LA like while it was airing before I even graduated, just like spending summers here because I knew I wanted to work in entertainment, but I didn't really know what capacity. I was thinking at first I wanted to work in like management and like work with other people. Um, and once I did graduate, and while I was coming out here at first, just doing a lot of social media stuff that helped sustain me while I was like getting the lay of the land. But once I graduated, it was a few years out, moved out here, figuring things out, and didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do, like putting out different feelers. And just had an opportunity to start casting videos for like Jubilee, which is a big YouTube channel. Um, did that freelance for a while and just kind of built my resume with them and started making connections in casting. And that led to some other opportunities working on like Love Overboard like I started on that last spring. And I think that's when things really started to take off because I worked on that. Then I worked on Extracted. Then this year I got the chance to work on Traders, which was definitely a big step. Just worked on the show
that's so
called Ring
cool.
by Spring Break, which is a new Hulu dating show. And then now I'm working on this like new project for like it's not even a show. It's to co-host a pretty massive philanthropy YouTube channel. So it's like sometimes you end up doing random stuff. Like that's kind of the nature of the freelance life. But I guess yeah, I had an opportunity to get into it. I just felt like obviously I had seen some others people like Meg Maley from Big Brother who like went from being on a show to casting it. And I think reality TV is just like kind of a deep part of who I am, like growing up a big fan and then being on it. And in college I studied like business economics, but I knew I didn't really want to work in finance. I knew I wanted to work in entertainment, and I'm definitely considering myself to be like, you know, I want a job that's more social, like a people forward job, not one where I'm like in an office doing spreadsheets. Um, and obviously being a young guy in LA, I'd like made a good amount of connections where with like especially with Jubilee, it's like, okay, I've built up a little bit of a Rolodex of people.
Mm.
But to me, the biggest thing is just like I had such a great experience being on the circle. I had an amazing experience with my casting people. Like they were the number one support system for me when I was going through that process, and like they made the process really awesome. And I remember how much joy I got out of like going through the process and them like hyping me up and stuff. So I think ultimately the answer is like twofold: is one, I want to be able to give people that experience, like put people on TV, like you know, there's a lot of rejection involved in it because only so many people can make it. But the people that make it to be like, you're on the show, like that's a great feeling to be able to give that to somebody else and also support them as they go through it because I've been there myself. And then the other reason is just as a fan of reality, it's fun to be like, oh, the show I'm gonna watch, I can have a hand in picking who's on it. Like that's anyway, I don't have a whole lot of control ultimately, but like I'm really excited for Traders because I've got a handful of people on there that I found that I like worked with through the whole process. So to like that I think are great. So like watch them and be like, oh, I killed it. Like, hopefully, yeah, that's how I feel. But I'm really excited for that. Yeah.
Well, cool, Jack. I really appreciate you coming on here and sharing all this with us.
Yeah.
I would love to see you cast the circle. So let's get that movement going, everybody.
Trying, man.
Okay.
But like, yeah, I'm trying to get in there. I've worked with Studio Lambert, which is the production team before. And obviously I think that would that would be full circle, like a full circle moment of, and again, not to toot my own horn, but of all the shows to work on, I'm like, I know this one. Like I know this one. So I'm hoping that works out.
Well, cool, man. All right. Well, I think you're doing a great job, Jack. Keep it up. I can't wait to see what else you do moving forward. So
And I've got
appreciate
some
you
acting
coming
stuff
on.
I'm working on too. So excited about that. So, if you want
Yeah,
to
where can people find you on the internet? You want to plug
just my Instagram, Jack Atkins 21. I post a lot about casting stuff. I post a lot of sketch comedy.
You're hilarious on Instagram. One of my favorite follows, man.
Yeah. It's a weird combo where I'm like, half of it is me just messing around, like just doing a bit half the time and like joking around, sketch comedy. And then it's like, I'm casting a philanthropy. It's very different. So my DMs are like very weird mix, but yeah, I guess if you want to, keep up with me, and hopefully maybe I'll be casting the circle. I'm trying to manifest that. So hey, if you want to stick around and stay tuned to see if and when that gets announced.
Yeah. Hopefully you cast one of you on the show are going to cast somebody that's listening to this podcast right now. So, all right, Jack, we'll end it there. Thank you everybody for listening, and we will see you guys next time.